to my Flagstaff home. A couple of weeks I uploaded a video to this channel called Time-Saving Freezer Meals. And I told you about how you can take recipes, certain ones that are conducive to freezing, and prep everything ahead of time, put them in Ziploc bags or in little foil tray kinds of things, and freeze them so that on any given night of the week, you can take something before you go to work, thaw it out, or the night before, put it in the refrigerator to thaw out so that it can either go in the crock pot before you leave for work, or it can go in the oven when you get home. And now you don't have all that prep stuff to do. So I have been eating those meals. My husband and I have been eating those meals. I made 28 of them. I made 14 recipes divided in half because there's only 2 of us. And so I ended up with 28 meals that I put in the freezer, and which, you know, has been great. And so for the past 2 weeks, almost every single night, we have been eating those meals. A couple times we had some friends in town, and so we went out to dinner a couple of times. But from this process, I have learned a few things, and so I thought I would share those tips with you, because in a couple more weeks, I'm gonna be making up another batch of these because I am sold on this way of cooking. It doesn't mean you have to eat that way every night of the week, but the recipes that I've made and that my husband and I have tried, my husband has loved every single one of them. I have loved most of them. I'm not a big fan of chicken. I don't hate chicken, I'm just not a huge fan of it. So the recipes that have chicken in them have been fine. If they didn't have chicken in them, I probably would like them better. But anyway, they've been really, really good. So I'll link that post in the space below so you can go over and see that video, and the post that goes with it, the blog post, I'll link that too. Because in the blog post that goes along with the video, I talk about, well, I list all those recipes, links to the recipes that I got. So in my next video that I do about freezer cooking, I will also list some more recipes for you. But here we go with the tips. I talked about in my last video how it's a good idea to take your freezer bag and roll it back. Because when you're putting stuff into the bag, inevitably stuff gets around the edge of the bag, and that's where the zip seal is. And so you've kind of got to clean that all up before you zip it shut. Well, if you fold the top of the bag over, now if you splash it around the sides, it doesn't matter, because when you bring it up, that part you splashed is actually inside the bag. So that is a tip I shared last time. But then since I have done this, I ordered these cool things from Amazon.com, and in the post that will go along with this video, look below, it says coordinating blog post, click on that. I'll give you a link to Amazon where I found this, but this cool little contraption that holds your Ziploc bag. And it's got these little arms that can extend higher or lower if you're putting them in smaller bags. I went ahead and folded my bag back too, and then it's got little clips here that you hook them into. And it also has rubber on the bottom, so it's not like a suction cup on the table, but it keeps it from sliding around. I bought 6 of them, so now I can have them there, and I can put, you know, tomato sauce in this one, tomato sauce in this one, chicken in these 2, beef in these. And so what a cool idea. They were not terribly expensive. I don't remember how much they were. Not a lot. So check that out, check the link out, and that will take you over there. Let me show you what this looks like when it's out. When the bag's out. Here's the bag that's folded over. And then here is what this thing looks like. And I have the arms pulled up so we can push these down like this. Well, nice. Okay, there we go. And then for storage, these come down like this so it's flat. Here's the rubber for the bottom. So then it stores flat. Cool idea. You could just buy 1 of these and do, you know, 1 for each recipe if you wanted to, but I thought I would buy 6 so I could do assembly line kind of things. But that is a really great tip. Another thing, I wish I had thought of this too. I was looking around at some people talking about making freezer meals, and I learned this tip. Okay, I don't know about you, but I like to use a liner in crock pots, because it makes cleanup so much easier, and you don't end up having to soak the pot and scrape stuff off that sticks on there, that gets kind of cooked on there. And so I like to use a liner, a crock pot liner in the crock pot. Well, all right. So what I did with all of my crock pot recipes is I put them in the freezer bags. And then now when I thaw them out, I put my liner in the crock pot, and then I take the freezer bag and dump it in there. And then I've got either a bag that needs to be washed or I throw it away. And if it's got anything greasy in it at all, it's hard to get a Ziploc bag clean and free of greasiness. So usually I end up throwing them away. Well, I saw this great tip where what you do is you put all the ingredients in the crock pot liner. Then you twist it, put a twist tie or a rubber band and put that inside the freezer bag. Then you label the outside of the freezer bag, and then when you're ready to cook it, you thaw that out, take the liner out, stick the whole thing in the crock pot, and you haven't ruined the freezer bag. So now you can save that and use it for a different recipe, just put a different label on it. So, you know, it helps you be less wasteful. Loved that idea. I'm definitely going to do that next time. Okay, let me talk about the size of your crock pot. If you are cooking a recipe as is, as it's called for, and usually recipes feed, what, 4 to 6 people, so you can use a big crock pot for that, like one of those, I think there's 6-quart crock pots, you know, pretty big things. I have one of those. But I found that when I was taking a recipe and cutting it in half and putting it in that size crock pot, that everything would overcook, everything would dry out, it just wasn't working. And so really what I needed was a smaller crock pot because the liquid was all spreading out too far and it just wasn't working the way it should. So I went and bought a 3-quart crock pot. Mine is a nice little Cuisinart digital thing. I love it. And now you can cut a recipe in half and cook it, store it, cut in half, and then put it in your crock pot, the small crock pot, and it cooks just the way it's supposed to. Okay, one last tip. In the last video, I was talking about taking the stuff that you're putting in freezer bags and freezing them flat and then stacking them for storage. There's a problem with that. Now, if you're putting yours in a freezer that's part of your refrigerator, and particularly a side-by-side, that can be really helpful because you can see everything stacked there. You could even label the ends of them so you know which is which, but that's a really nice way to do it. The problem I ran into was I've got a freezer out in my garage, just a small freezer, and I was stacking them from bottom to top, and then I couldn't see where anything was. So every single time I got out a meal, I was having to take stuff off the top until I found the one that I wanted. Big pain. I will never do that again. So what I will do instead, I don't know. I mean, even freezing them so they're in kind of a blob and just throwing them in would be easier than what I was doing. But I think what I'm going to try this next time is to freeze them flat. So I'll arrange them in the freezer where I can lay them out and freeze them so that they freeze flat. And once they're frozen, then stand them up like this. And that way when I get into the freezer, all I have to do is kind of flip through, like I'm flipping through magazines or something, and flip through and see what's there and then pull the one out instead of having to, you know, take everything out of the freezer. It really has been a pain. And because I was doing that, I was kind of scraping the bags on each other or on the other boxes of stuff in my freezer, and I was thawing a recipe last night and it had a hole that I didn't realize was there. So as it started to thaw, it leaked in the refrigerator, and so I'm gonna do something different. I'll let you know how that goes in my next video where I give you some more recipes. Those are my tips. If you have any tips for doing freezer meals, I would love to hear about them. I've just found that this is a way of getting some nice food, eat at home, fresh ingredients, not spending a lot of money, and not having to put a lot of energy into the whole process. If you didn't see the other video, I went to the grocery store, I picked out my recipes, went to the grocery store and bought everything, came home and I cooked for 4 hours. Ended up with 28 meals that I froze. And all I've had to do in the past couple of weeks with any meal is just pop it in the oven, take it out the night before to thaw, either pop it in the oven when I get home or put it in the crock pot before I go to work. And then whip up some rice. I made quinoa one night and opened up a bag salad a couple of times. So pretty easy, not a lot of energy. So I am really excited about this, and I'm going to continue to do it, particularly during the winter months. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Like I said, I'd love to hear any tips that you have about creating freezer meals. I hope you'll join me in future videos on my Flagstaff home. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, hit that button right there, and YouTube will let you know when I upload new videos, which is usually once or twice a week. And I also have a very active blog that has posts every week. It's myflagstaffhome.com, so you might want to go over and check that out. I hope you guys are doing well, and thanks so much for watching. Take care, you guys. Bye-bye.